This is what an independent candidate faces, is the Republicans and Democrats have it locked up. And the progressives lock, step, and barrel with the same thing happens. I mean, I don't see no difference. I mean, you might as well call them the sub-party of the Democrats.
Well, Charlotte is definitely not supported by the Democrats. And she's running against a Democrat, William
But is she
Sorrell.
actually running? I mean, she's not going to...
She's
running.
She's running. She's going to have a press conference shortly after Labor Day.
She's not just going to endorse a Democrat after?
No, you're talking about the person running for governor that's going to drop out of the race.
Yeah,
well, the lieutenant governor candidate, too. I mean, you can't get on VPR for Vermont Edition. Have you tried?
Yeah.
Good luck.
No.
Good luck. But yet they'll put that progressive up there who had no ideas and talked about absolutely nothing for 30 minutes.
Was he going to drop out also?
Yeah, she said she was going to drop out and endorse a Democrat. But the VPR, Voice of the Empire, gives her 30 minutes on Vermont Edition. We might as well name one of those F-35s Vermont Public Radio. You know, I mean, geez, they're nothing but a voice for the empire. It's pathetic.
Well, we're fortunate here to be on VCAM, Channel 15 in Chittenden County, and they give us equal time. We actually have an opportunity to present our views to the public.
One thing we should probably talk about, Terry, which we talked about in the break before we run out of time, I think, is why people are afraid or worried about joining something like the Second Vermont Republic or the secession movement. And I think certainly it's fear of the unknown, and we talked. A lot of countries have done this. This isn't really a new thing. Probably 20 countries in Europe in the last 20 years have seceded from countries that they did not shared their values anymore, that they weren't represented by the country anymore, and so they broke away. And really, that's kind of where we are. And some people that are on the fence haven't gotten there yet, but I mean, we kind of talk about it as kind of like an abusive relationship where, you're getting beaten by your husband, and at what point do you say, you know what, the fear of the unknown of leaving him seems like a better choice than the abuse I'm taking at home. And that's kind of where I am with the federal government. I mean, the Patriot Act, the Military Commissions Act, FISA, they're listening to them. They can listen to my phone conversations. They can read my email. They can put me in jail for doing absolutely nothing, keep me there forever. They can kidnap me. They can torture me. I'm at the point where this abusive relationship with the U.S. government has gotten to the point where I'm okay with the fear of the unknown. I'll take a chance right now. That's where I am, and I really wish that I thought there was a way that we could fix it, but I just think that it really can't be fixed, and I think the collapse may be the fix. Okay, that may be our chance for people to realize, when things collapse, when people are starving, when there is no middle class, it's only. You have the caste system now. There's kind of like 4 different castes. When it gets to the point where there's just the corporate elite and us, then people might realize that we've been led down the wrong path here, and these people have done this to us. This is what happened here, and I'm already at the point where the pain has gotten worse than the fear of the unknown. So I think that's where people are with the secession movement as far as being afraid.
There are historical examples too. For instance, little Iceland, which has 1/3 the population that we do, seceded from the European Union, and then they went back in again after a few years. And so you can come in and go out, and that's real democratic choice of people there. Yeah. I don't know whether they're in or out now, but they have a civilized approach to this. And there's other examples. For instance, Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia. Those are all very small countries, and they seceded from the Soviet Union. So it's not that strange that Vermont might want to.
And geographically, Michael Rupert, when he was here touring around the state, he came to realize that yes, Vermont is a lifeboat geographically. We have Lake Champlain on one side, the Connecticut River on the other, Canada up at the top, and it's only at the bottom that we are actually sort of physically connected with the United States. And so he felt that Vermont is the ideal place for secession to start.
We were talking about inclusion of you in the debates, Dennis. But 2 years ago, before the last election here in Vermont, I had Peter Diamondstone on my show here, and we were talking about the debate in Waitsfield. They had a debate for governors at that time, and Peter was a major party candidate for governor of Vermont, and he tried to participate in the debate, and the police actually dragged him away from him and arrested him. And I thought that was absolutely horrible.
Major party insofar as Liberty Union had gotten over 5%?
Yes.
That year?
At that time, there were 4 major parties in Vermont: the Progressives, the Democrats, the Republicans, and Liberty Union. And certainly he had a right to be in that debate. And yet the police dragged him away and arrested him.
That's what we're facing. I mean, it's just like back in the USSR, man. That's what's happening. I mean, you'd think that in Vermont that we wouldn't have that problem. Independent candidates should be able to get on, should be heard. And I have to really credit the early educators union that they're organizing for including me in all of their debates. That was very good of them, and I definitely will remember that in the future, because they're the ones that are going to be hurting our children, and because the status quo politicians aren't getting it yet. And if we really want to save those programs and really put our children first, we're going to have to address the empire. Until we get that in our heads, nothing's going to change. So we've got censorship going on. The Burlington Free Press didn't cover any independent candidate, even though we've met the requirements to be on the ballot. If they feel that that should be changed, then maybe the number of signatures should be changed. But we want to be taken seriously. We are candidates. Why do I have to? I've had people approach me. Oh, well, if you really want to get traction, Dennis, you're going to have to join the Democrat Party or Republican Party. I'm like, forget that. I'm not joining those parties. Those parties, I disagree with both of them. The Republicans are run by the neocons, and the Democrats are run by the neoliberals. It drives me crazy that I would think that I'd have to go into a party, be forced into a party to get any kind of traction. And I refuse to believe that. What I think is when these military soldiers come back from Afghanistan and Iraq, that they need to start running, because they fought. They served their country. They have a right to be heard. If they're running as an independent, they should be included in every debate. I mean, isn't that what I served in the United States Army for? So that I could have freedom of speech, but yet I am ignored by the Burlington Free Press, who's owned by Gannett, a big corporation down in Washington. We were even ignored by 7 days. We had to actually, all independent candidates, I had to put a post on Facebook about the fact that they ignored us in the profiles. So they're coming back and they're doing a little blog feature on us. They're going to include us in, which is great, but you know what? We should have been in that main feature one. I mean, they did all the Democrats, and they even included Doobie at the time. And I find that just mind-boggling to think that that we've met the obligations of getting on the ballot, and they don't include us in these debates. The first debate after the primary, I'm being excluded. AARP is excluding me. Okay.
This is the influence of money. In America, democracy means $1, one vote, not one person, one vote.
But it's not necessarily money in Vermont. It's leadership. Now, I cannot remember who did this, but I read about it, and I'll go and look it up. And it might have been Jeffords, but he would not go on the stage until all of the candidates who were running against him were on that stage. Independent, progressive, whatever they were, they would be on that stage. He would demand it. Because you shouldn't be afraid of people who have a different opinion of what you do, and that is what we're up against.
There are actually 2 other candidates for governor, right?
Emily,
and the sort of turn Vermont into Amsterdam candidate.
And then there's also the Liberty Union candidate, the socialist candidate from the Liberty Union. He calls them a socialist. They're not being heard. They're not being allowed in the debates, just like us.
They're not the only socialist candidate. I'm also a socialist candidate.
Right, but I'm saying for governor. Governor, yeah. So, but as an independent, like you said, with Pete, I mean, try to get on VPR in the Vermont edition and see how it goes.
And they said, yeah, we'll call you. But after all the other candidates were, but another example is there was a big meeting on the F-35s, and I try to go as many things as possible that the community's involved that I'm passionate about, and I showed up there, and I was the only person running for office that showed up, and they invited everybody. And I got up and said something, and afterwards, a guy from the Burlington Free Press came up to me, and he was all excited, wrote my name down, wrote my phone number down, said, it's so great that somebody actually stood up and said something like that at this meeting. I'm going to get an interview with you. Never heard from him. So, he went back and it got kiboshed. They said, no, you're not. You're not going to get an interview with him. Because,
Mike Townsend and Terry I forget her last name. But yeah, they've ridiculed us in the press, and you know, I've you know, with Facebook, we're able to get some traction on that, and if there's something you're not getting included in, I can put a post on Facebook for you to try to help out. But for the most part, they completely ignore the independent candidate, and they've had a harder time because, like I said, that early educators debates, they included me in those debates. So the press had a harder time ignoring me. But,
so Doobie was on as well?
No,
or?
Doobie refused. Doobie refused to go to each one of these debates because he knows. I mean, we're facing 60 to 100 million fund shortfall for the 2012 education fund shortfall. Those programs are going away. He doesn't want to show up to that because he knows they're going away. And the Democrats are trying to two-step the whole thing, and the money's not there. So the only thing that the only thing that's there is the $1.5 billion Vermont's pro rata share of the U.S. Defense Department budget. That's where the money is. That's the only solution.
Yeah.